Welcome everyone to Community Call 6. Great to have you all here again. We've had a lot of news over the last month, and I'm really excited to also today have Dave Connor from API 3 and Dustin Wallace from F8 Guild, who's also one of our Aragon ambassadors, joining today. For those of you that don't know, I'm Alex. I run transparency for the Aragon network. As we run through the community call today, let us know any questions that you have in the YouTube chat. You can also add them into the Discord server, and I'll ask them to the panelists as we go along. If you haven't already, a reminder to subscribe to the YouTube channel to stay up to date when we have community calls and AMAs. So if you want to stay up to date with all that's happening within the network, make sure to subscribe. As for today, the agenda. So we're going to have a really interesting discussion with Dave, the BD lead for API 3 on their DAO launch. We're then going to speak to Dustin, who is running F8 Guild. He's also an Aragon ambassador, and we're going to ask him about his experience of being an Aragon ambassador and how it's helped with F8 Guild. I'm then going to run through some DAO Global Hackathon updates, which is coming together and is really exciting. So I want to give a few updates on that to try and get as many people involved as possible. And then a few announcements and some closing remarks, and we should be all wrapped up within about 45 minutes. That's enough from me. What I will do now is I will welcome Dave to the stage, who is going to talk to us about API 3 and their DAO.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you well, Dave.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. So hi, my name's Dave. As Alex said, I lead the business development for API 3, more specifically the blockchain side of business development. I've been working in blockchain since about 2018, and my initial project working in blockchain was building a data marketplace on Ethereum. A lot of the lessons that we learned building that have actually helped build and shape API 3. We'd built the data marketplace originally using Chainlink, and the aim really was to try to bring as many different APIs onto Web3 so that people building applications based on smart contract platforms have access to the full suite of APIs that enable the existing Web2 apps. And kind of going down that line briefly, the reason why Web2 apps work so well is a lot of them will use different APIs to create very rich functionality. And this can be surprisingly few APIs. So you can make Uber, for instance, or an approximation of Uber using a communications API, using a payment API, using a mapping and location API to tell you where you are, track the distance that you've traveled in a car, pay the car driver, and tell you when the car's on its way. And it can be done pretty simply. So for my mind, I think a lot of the reasons you're not seeing a huge number of dApps built on Web3 other than price-related applications is because of the lack of these fundamental building blocks. So anyway, we started building that around 2018, released it 2019, and we felt there were a few problems with the technology that we were building it on that kind of limited the ability to scale. So around about that time, we started work on API 3, and we launched API 3, kind of not soft launch. We launched September last year, but we really went fully decentralized in July with the launch of our definitive DAO, which is built on Aragon. And so kind of touching on what I said earlier about issues we felt with other Oracle projects. The first issue is that most Oracle projects rely on third parties. And the Oracle problem itself is posed assuming that a third party exists. So the Oracle problem is that you don't want to trust a single third party putting your information on the blockchain. And the reason behind that is pretty simple. Oracles generally have historically been hard to run. So you want a specialist person to run it and run it well to put data on chain. Then you don't want to trust this specialist person. So we approached the Oracle problem thinking that it's actually a misposed problem. The optimal solution here is not to use third parties. So we've created an Oracle that data providers can run directly. So rather than having to aggregate between lots of different third-party data providers, the data can be used directly by dApps and applications on chain. So this gives you a much more Sybil-resistant data source And we've made the Oracle easy enough that we have over 150 different data providers running it. And we announced, I think the article went out either today or yesterday with Aragon, that we're going to be supplying this data so that in future Aragon updates, people can use this data in proposals and make it so proposals can execute whether or not this, depending on external data. So for instance, you might execute a purchase if the value of the token that you're planning to purchase with is over a certain amount. You might want to insure something that the DAO owns using a like a parametric insurance style proposal. So there are lots of interesting, exciting things that you can do with that. So the other aspect that we felt was a problem with current Oracle projects is very, very tied to working with Aragon. And it's the idea that governance centralization is centralization. So if you have a project that's governed opaquely in a conventional way, and they are aggregating your data feed, and they can choose what oracles go on it, you are trusting them to not act maliciously. And at that point, the whole decentralized aspect of blockchain gets somewhat murky. I'd say it's not really present. So API3 has always been a DAO. We were an Aragon DAO from September, but we've been building since then a DAO that lets any token holder stake to gain governance rights, which we think is important because everybody should participate. And to the point where things like salaries are done by proposal, everything is done now through proposals through this definitive DAO. We've tried to make it so that people can participate more easily because we realize that having a DAO on Ethereum has some barriers to getting widespread participation, and one of them is gas fees. So we've built a module that allows people to delegate their tokens to other DAO members. And I think it's important to realize that not everybody is going to stay up to date with what's going on, but people might still want to participate and want to give their percentage of voting to people who are going to be more active. So this way, even people with a lower number of tokens for whom gas fees are a high barrier to participation can take part. And we've actually built a not legal framework, we've built some documents around this so that delegators or people who want to be delegated to can list conflicts of interest, say what motivates them, to try to give people as much information as they can when they're making that choice.
That was a really, really good introduction, Dave. Thanks a lot for that. Quickly, just very general question: how has the DAO launch gone, and how's it been received by the API3 community?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the DAO launch has gone really well, but I am biased. So a key mechanism of our DAO is the idea of a staking target. We've reached the staking target a few weeks ago. The functionality of having a staking target is because you want a certain value in the staking pool. And these people who stake are staking to gain governance rights. The reason why you want a value there is because in the future, what we're developing is an insurance protocol that's based around the data we provide. And this also ties in with how you motivate people to govern and to govern correctly, because if people are able to make whatever decisions they like with no consequences, then the project might end up being managed suboptimally. So this staking pool collateralizes the products that we're making and means that if there's a mistake, if there's a problem with the data that's being provided, then the project that's affected can claim on behalf of the users that are affected. Because we see good governance as being where there are no problems, where there are no interruptions, where there's no downtime, there's no incorrect data. So deviation from that should be something that is avoided at all costs. So the DAO is expected to be pretty conservative and make sure that everything is done correctly before everything's ready. The other side of incentivizing things is incentivizing people to govern for the long term. So if you stake in our staking pool, you get to vote on proposals, you get to make proposals, but you also get programmatic token inflation, which means that you get a percentage of tokens that are minted to give to people who are governed, and these are vested for a year. So governors are incentivized to govern the project so that it will work for the long term. And the staking target goes up and down depending on how many people have staked. So we don't want too many people staking because then inflation gets too high. So in that case, then the staking, the percentage that's paid comes down if it's over the target, and the percentage that's paid goes up if it's under the staking target, because equally we want to always have a well collateralized staking pool for the insurance products. So yeah, so that's, I think it's gone well from that point of view. We have how many? So it's about 50 million API3 staked in there. So like over $100 million TVL in our DAO contracts.
Fantastic! Congratulations. Do you know how many users that's spread across? Or
That's a good question. Actually, we had one of our community members. Actually, I guess from this point of view, as a DAO, everyone really is a community member. So everybody who holds tokens is part of the DAO. So one of the other DAO members built a dashboard that shows participation, and the DAOs rewarded them for that. And actually, the same team behind that are now building an explorer for our oracles so that people can track. Well, no, they're not building it. They put a proposal up today to build a dashboard to track Oracle performance and track how air nodes are being used, basically, which is quite exciting. So, and it's always nice to see people who maybe weren't part of the initial team behind it coming in and building things that the community are looking for, and the DAO being able to reward them for it. And that's the essence of truly being decentralized. People should be able to come and do that, and it makes sense that the DAO wants it to happen.
no, it's brilliant, and I think you're a pure DAO in every sense, aren't you? I think you said that things like salaries, things like everything is going now through that voting process. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's no, we don't, you can't, when you're a DAO, you can't have a team and people that aren't team. Everybody should be treated equally. So we call them grants, I guess, rather than salaries. So grants are gone through the DAO. There's no salaries. There's no contracts like that. If people are going to conferences, that's all. Like the conference team have a grant application for the DAO as well. And obviously these kind of things, like decentralization done this way, is the right way to go. But obviously there are challenges, but we think it's important to do everything the right way from the start. And some things, like people ask if team members can have Ethereum, paid back for voting on proposals. But there shouldn't be a delineation between core team and community members, because everybody who has tokens can take part, and you can't compensate some people and not compensate other people. So we tried to do everything fairly from the start and treat everyone the same and bring as many people in as possible. And the delegation aspect is part of that I was saying earlier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the delegation module is a brilliant module that you've added on top of the framework. So congrats on that. You touched on the first party oracles automatically making sort of decisions. Do you want to go into a little bit more detail on that from an insurance perspective? I know you've used a vineyard as an example before, which I thought was brilliant. So maybe you could touch on that and go in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so the beauty of this kind of proposal would be that the DAO could make proposals that are contingent on the right conditions being there to execute them. So it means that there's a little more flexibility when it comes to proposals going live. I'm trying to remember the example I gave you on the previous call. I think something like so the DAO could vote to allocate, say, 10,000 USDC to hire people to pick grapes from a DAO governed vineyard if the weather was a certain number of degrees in temperature within a certain number of weeks. So that way the proposal can pass, but then only be executed and only distribute the USDC when climatic conditions are correct for it to be spent. And then if it elapses and the conditions haven't been correct, maybe that's returned to the treasury. So there are ways that you only spend money if it's correct to spend it. And there are, I'm sure, much more exciting ways as well.
Absolutely, but no, that's always a good example. It always brings it to the forefront of the mind when you can think of something physical like that. And on the what's on the roadmap, what's coming up, sort of development with the DAO and development going forwards.
Well, we're working with the Open Bank project as well. So, and this is maybe something else that's quite relevant when it comes to the DAO having an ability to use APIs triggered by Airnode, because Open Bank project are working with a lot of existing banks, and by plugging Airnode into open banking and allowing Web3 to interact with open banking APIs, something that would be exciting to explore is the ability to have DAOs make real life payments. So there are already some jurisdictions that start to recognize DAOs as legal entities. And from there, if it's possible to open bank accounts, it would be interesting to explore the ability for a DAO via an on-chain contract to actually execute an off-chain fiat payment. So it would be possible then for DAOs to pay salaries in fiat to people, or to make other transactions in fiat, and it gets really interesting. It gives DAOs this ability to reach into the real world. In terms of API 3, so recent updates, we announced the API 3 Alliance, which is the 150 different data providers. We're working on a lot behind the scenes as well, which we hope to share more with you relatively shortly. And yeah, we've been busy building out the core technical side of things too, and also making sure that we have people ready to use data when Airnode is in a state that's able to be used in production.
Fantastic, brilliant. If anyone has any other questions for Dave or API 3, I'm sure we can link you up with them afterwards. But Dave, thanks a lot for joining and telling us about the DAO and what's been happening. I think it's really exciting. I think you've done some very interesting things on top of the sort of Aragon framework as well. So congrats on that. Congrats on having so many people participating. It's
cool.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I think working with Aragon has been very good. We've enjoyed building on Aragon, and it's made us really, I think we've created something really good. I'm not sure how many other DAOs are working with this kind of staking and financial incentives model, but we think it's quite an interesting primitive for the space if there aren't any other ones out there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a really important development, and I think you've done it in a very clever way. So yeah, congrats on that, and congrats to the team who've implemented it as well.
Yeah, I can't really take any credit for that side, but our developers are excellent. So.
I'll give you some credit as well.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thanks,
and
Alex.
we're gonna jump in now. So you may have seen that we have begun welcoming ambassadors into Aragon. So we had our first cohort join us around a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and we wanted to start inviting them on to the calls to provide a bit of an insight into what it's like to be an ambassador, but also on projects that they're working on. So today, it's my pleasure to welcome Dustin Wallace, who's working on F8 Guild and is also one of the ambassadors from the first cohort. So welcome, Dustin. Welcome to the community call.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So Dustin, we'll start off. Do you want to intro yourself? Say a little bit about F8 Guild and maybe how it's been an ambassador, and then we can jump into some Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again. My name's Dustin. I'm a data science student in California. I had originally applied to be an Aragon ambassador over the summer as I was testing on Rinkeby a lot of the Aragon client templates, and wanted to learn more about the space and how I can use Aragon tools in my own personal project that I was working on, and that's been a really good success so far. I've gotten a lot out of the ambassador program. The governance tools for Aragon is just the first step in this process, but a lot of the other tools that Aragon has experimented with us ambassadors, such as SourceCred, for example, has given me a lot of really good ideas, and I'm excited to be here at the beginning of this gaming metaverse wave, and being able to experiment and implement a lot of the tools that I'm learning from with Aragon. So as an ambassador, I've had the opportunity to join other calls with other universities and organizations, and explain to them the differences, and walk through the different products. And that's been really instrumental in learning which exact configuration that I want to start with in our guild. So F8 Guild is a blockchain gaming guild focused primarily on play-to-earn gaming, and largely games located in the Polygon ecosystem. Our main goal is to reduce the barriers of entry for gamers all over the world, particularly in developing nations, to have the same sort of access to play-to-earn gaming and blockchain gaming as anyone else. So we Yeah, so we're trying to use Aragon because of its modularity, and as I said, the tools, the governance tools, are just the beginning, right? And we want to be able to reward contributions to the guild outside of the game. So thanks to Aragon and experimenting with source cred or bright ID, we're gonna a way that we can really differentiate ourselves from other guilds is by being really familiar with these different tools and implementing them early, as well as just having the founder status in these various blockchain gaming metaverse. So the we see that small community tokens will proliferate Web3, and that there will be many gaming guilds of all sizes. And so one of the advantages that we believe F8 Guild has is by using these tools and by being able to make partnerships early on, and like I said, gaining the founder status and really using the education, educating our early members into becoming DeFi natives. So it's been a fun road. We started back over the summer in June. So
brilliant. No, fantastic. Thanks for that intro, Dustin. And it's really interesting to hear how being an ambassador has helped with F8 Guild, but also what the sort of idea behind F8 Guild is. We'll jump into Q&A. If anyone has any questions for Dustin, either on F8 Guilds and gaming in the metaverse, or on being an ambassador, feel free to add them into the chat. But Dustin, I'll start out and I'll say on a question around where do you sort of see yourself going short term with F8 Guild, and then also on the sort of longer term, and how is it sort of helping? You talked about developing nations. How's that sort of helping them around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started around June with only a handful of Axie Infinity scholars, and today we have about 30 or so scholars that have earned over 100,000 SLP from playing Axie Infinity alone. So we a lot of our community members might not have access to traditional finance institutions or banking, but are becoming more and more efficient at using decentralized finance. And so we really believe that the educational aspect and the onboarding aspect is an obligation that we have to, to help to mass adoption. So where we're going in the near future is we'll have the finishing touches on our white paper soon, so that we can go ahead and implement the Aragon DAO on Polygon. And beyond that, we will repurpose the Aragon network charter and use the SDKs to develop in-game experiences to be able to hopefully vote in-game. So
brilliant. Yeah, voting in-game sounds fantastic, especially with if it's got on-chain execution as well. It'll be fantastic. So you touched a little bit on there, but how do you envision community enrichment and adding value through the guild?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of our members, our current scholars, have definitely told me that their lives have considerably improved since being able to play this game. I know in Venezuela and the Philippines, for example, or where a lot of our scholars are from, and they've been able to support themselves and their family, especially through this pandemic time. So that's always a motivation for me to continue building and to continue implementing all the tools that I'm learning about through Aragon. But yeah, we want to just continue to increase the amount of play to earn opportunities that we can facilitate. So we're largely focusing on just large multiplayer games and on chains that are not so gas intensive, because that would be a major roadblock for a lot of our community members. So
that was gonna be my next question, was why Polygon, but I think you've probably answered that. And then you mentioned a couple of times now with source cred. How do you see sort of value being distributed through the DAO once it's up and running? Will it be purely on the scholars and what they're earning, or will there be other value sort of attributed through programs like source cred, or maybe coordinate? What's the plan there?
Yeah, absolutely. We have been bootstrapping this entire project for the entire time, and largely with our Axie revenue. But we see that Aragon actually offers several products that are really conducive to the bootstrapping model, the fundraising template, for instance. So we see projects like SourceCred as an extension of that, to be able to not only reward in-game contributions, which are important, but also just the community at large, whether it's through Discord engagements and activity, social posts, or GitHub contributions. So we want to be able to offer, to reward those that contribute in any way possible. So
brilliant. No, absolutely. And then you touched on white paper. What's coming up, sort of roadmap wise? What are the timelines? I know people love to ask about timelines. Yeah, it'd be great to hear what the sort of plan is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to f8guild.com if you want to read our roadmap and some of the assets and games that we're involved in. But by the end of year, we aim to have not only the white paper finished and the DAO launched, but there will be several games that are in early stages of alpha release. So such as Avagachi, which we've definitely looked up to as being a really good example of using Aragon DAOs on Polygon. So we're going to be watching that really closely, be involved in those games, and yeah, just continue to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to researching new games, or getting into these early releases. So
brilliant, fantastic. And final question, Dustin, around have you enjoyed being an Aragon ambassador? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely given me what I came here to learn. I would recommend it to anyone that's interested in the DAO space, or any DAO tools. If you're considering launching your own DAO, or just learning more about it, or potentially voting in one, I would certainly recommend it.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Dustin. Thanks for joining. Thanks for talking about being an ambassador, but mainly about F8 Guild. It's really interesting to hear different applications for DAOs, and also with Aragon now being on Polygon as well. It's interesting to hear how you're using that to open it up to everyone around the globe. So that's brilliant. But thanks for joining.
And thank you.
If anyone's interested in obviously linking up with Dustin, I'm sure we can link you up afterwards. Just drop us a message.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Dustin. So the next point on our agenda, and this is really exciting, and I know the whole Aragon team is very excited about being involved in this, and helping drive it, is the DAO Global Hackathon that we are currently helping organize with a number of partners. So this is going to be the virtual sprint to build governance primitives, and we're looking at partnering with the leading DAO infrastructure providers. So we now have 12 partners that are all working together on trying to produce the largest DAO global hackathon, and we're looking at doing it across 4 tracks. We are going to have 2 lanes, so we're going to have bounties in the first half of the hackathon, and then we're going to have open lanes where teams can compete for a prize pool of over $100,000. So bounties will be separate to that. We're looking for teams to contribute to key areas of DAO development. So whether that be finance, core DAO tooling, community and social, NFTs, cross chain. So it's really looking to solve the biggest issues in DAO tooling today. So on dates, when can you start? So we'll be launching the bounties on the 25th of October. That will then run for 3 weeks up until November the 12th, where we will launch the open lane where teams will be able to compete across the different tracks for a number of prizes, totaling over 100,000. So it's really exciting. I just thought I would touch on sort of who can participate. So we're looking at trying to open it up to as many people as possible. So not just developers. We're looking at doing some bounties which may be research related, trying to open up to the largest amount of people and get the largest amount of people involved in DAO tooling and involved in DAOs as possible. And we're really excited to be a part of this. It's free. It's going to be hosted on Gitcoin. If you're looking at setting up a team, teams can be between 1 and 5. And don't worry if you've never been to a hackathon before. We've set up a Discord server where we'll be able to help guide you through, maybe point you in the right direction of a team. If you're looking at joining a team, or if you just want to work on a bounty alone, it's completely up to you. So I just wanted to touch on that. It's really exciting. It's going to be hopefully the biggest hackathon at the end of this year, going into December, and we're really excited to see what gets produced from the hackathon. So if you have any questions or if you need the links should be appearing in the YouTube channel now. Let us know. You can jump into the Aragon server, or you can jump into any of the other partners servers, or join the dedicated DAO Global Hackathon Discord server and ask your questions there. But yeah, make sure to look out for announcements of that. Bounties will go live on the 25th of October. So really excited to see everyone get involved in that. And then finally, a few announcements. So I just wanted to touch on, we still have 14 open job positions at Aragon. So if you know anyone who you think would be good for a role, point us in our direction. Again, if you also want to take part in a more sort of part-time basis, obviously we have the ambassador program, which we've just spoken about. So make sure to apply for that as well. And then I just wanted to touch on this, which is if you're in Lisbon for LisCon or Lisbon Blockchain Week, make sure to join us on the 20th of October for Downtown, starting at 7 o'clock. There should be 2 links popping up in the YouTube chat where you can either join with an NFT, or you can join through Eventbrite. Going to be a huge party. Very excited about this. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail. You definitely want to be there if you're in Lisbon. So looking forward to meeting lots of people in person, which is very exciting. Apart from anything else, that's everything for today. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Dustin, both for joining. It was really interesting to hear from both of you. Hopefully everyone found it useful. If you have any further questions, follow-up questions, you can see all the channels there. Jump into Discord or Telegram and ask any questions you have. If you want to ask about API 3, ask about being an ambassador, what we're doing during Lisbon Blockchain Week, or if you want to talk about the DAO Global Hackathon, let us know. We're happy to help. But apart from anything else, thanks for joining, and look forward to seeing you again on November 3rd next month. Thanks, everyone.